This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1199, 1199, and it's the Relevant Podcast. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What's happening?
And right down the street there, Midtown, Emily Brown.
Okay. Hey, y'all.
It doesn't work. Downtown.
It don't work.
I don't even want to answer to it.
Same, bro. I ain't gonna hold you. It hit a little different.
You can't switch up on me. We're almost to the 1200th episode. The other day I said we were almost at 2000.
She did. This is 1199. And she's like, we were talking about some new podcast plans, some things we're going to be evolving, changing. We'll tell you more about in the next week or two. But I was like, yeah, 1199. And she's like, yeah, we're almost to 2000. I was like, we're going to be in 2000 in like 8 years. It's going to we're not almost in 2000. 1200 is.
I wasn't completely wrong. We are closer to 2000 than we were last week.
Yes, correct.
That's girl math.
Yeah, I was going to say that ain't math, man.
No, it is math.
It's math, but it's like
it's an observation.
You're a little far away.
Let me tell you about the show that we have coming up. Carlos Whittaker joins us, longtime friend of the show, former worship leader. What is he now? Just an inspirational author, speaker?
Influencer. That dude is an influencer.
I've known that guy for 20 years. Anyway, he's coming up. He has a new book out. And at the end of the show, we have a segment called the Unpopular Opinion Roundtable. So it's Emmys weekend. And so it's all themed. It's kind of a hot takes-ish segment where the cast are going to bring some piping hot, unpopular opinions. And we will
fight.
We'll fight them out. Yeah, no. Anyway, so that's good. Are you guys? We had the VMAs this week too. Are you? I guess we're in the throes of award season, fall award season. Are you guys paying attention at all? I watched part of the VMAs.
I gotta be honest. I saw like on Instagram like somebody's red carpet outfit at the VMAs. I was like, the VMAs are still a thing? Like, I thought.
Well, they are a thing, but they're definitely not, I think, what they used to be. Because, like, I, of course, was, like, catching up on it and stuff and watching it. But there was so much references to things that were 20 years ago. Like, a lot of people were referencing, like, Britney Spears and their performances, or Madonna, or, like, these older artists who are great. But it's like, well, what about now? Like, that was great 20 years ago. Are we in a time where we're just looking back on how great it was? Like, I want new, innovative things.
I watched it, and I watched the red carpet beforehand. I was popping around, but I mean, I watched it because I was curious, like you, Jesse. Like, I didn't know it was still a thing, first of all. And I was playing around in my Hulu Live and on all the guide. It was like every Viacom station, like it was CMT, VH1, like every station was playing the VMAs, like literally 13 stations. We're playing the VMAs.
Is it still the MTV VMAs or is it
MTV?
Now? Okay.
MTV Video Music Awards.
Okay.
But they spread it out over all of their sister networks, like it was a presidential debate or something. Anyway, so it was like 13 channels had it. Guess what the total viewership was over 13 channels? What's your guess? Total audience for the night. The presidential debate, for comparison, had 67 million viewers over 5 channels.
Definitely not 67. I'll say 13 million. Like, I think it was pretty low.
Good guess. Like $1 million per channel. Good guess. Yeah. 3 million total is what divided by 13. So nobody cares is the point. Nobody cares. Anyway, but I watched it because I was like curious, and it was so strange, dude. It was like Eminem, Katy Perry, French Montana, Fat Joe, Halsey, who hadn't been there. And so I'm watching the red carpet, and they're like, yeah, it's so cool to be back. I haven't been here in like 10 years, and I haven't been here in 7 years. And it's like, is this where music is now? That we're just doing retreads from the teens? Like, is this?
Okay.
I don't know that it's, well, Derek, go ahead. And then
there's this guy I follow on Instagram, and he was talking about music streaming. And he was saying that, one, the Spotify CEO just made $345 million in stock options, while artists are getting paid 0.006 or whatever per stream, which, business is business, et cetera, et cetera. But what he was saying was Warner also cut 50 artists and cut a whole bunch of their staff. And what's happening is like what happens in any other industry when something gets over bloated, and when you begin to just think more about the money than innovation, then what winds up happening is you start seeing recessions, you start seeing depressions. And it feels like music is beginning to go into a depression because, hey, remember those A&Rs that were developing artists that you would walk with those artists for a couple years before they broke? Turns out you actually may need them to make new stars, right? And that's what's happening is the music industry has been treated like a casino or slot machine for so long that they forgot that this is actually a business where you're developing talent in a sense, which you're developing a product, and people are just not happy with the product anymore. So now you just got to keep going back to the old guys. But the problem with the old guys is they're getting old.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I wanted to bring up because I'm watching it and like they even had like Lenny Kravitz perform and stuff like that. And I'm going, Lenny Kravitz is in his 60s. He's a grandfather. He's I'm thinking like his daughter is in her 30s. These fans that are cheering down there look like, I mean, they're younger than his daughter. Like they're cheering for a grandfather. I mean, it was so strange watching that dynamic when they would do crowd shots. And then, no offense, Emily, they would shoot over to Taylor Swift, who's in there dancing with her friends. She looked like a mom. She looked like a chaperone compared to the crowd. And I'm going, music is getting uncool. And I'm realizing that the VMAs are nothing but plugging major label priorities, right? Well, and it's a big promo thing. And so I'm going, the major labels are so dry, they're leaning on Fat Joe and Katy Perry retreads because they don't have fresh young talent. Now, Sabrina Carpenter, sure. She's very formulaic pop, but she's great. She was there. Megan Thee Stallion was a host. She's great. Like there was some contemporary artists, but it looked very stale. And the contrast was stark. Like it was a lot of 40 and 50 somethings performing for kids. It was weird.
I think even with those artists like you mentioned, like Sabrina, Megan, like there is pop. As a pop music fan, I enjoy the pop music that we're having now. There are very, very, very few artists that I would say are innovative pop artists, and that's
Chapel Roan was there.
Chapel Roan, who I think I think she's doing something really interesting.
Amazing,
but
she's innovating.
She is innovative. There are traces of Lady Gaga and Madonna in her, but she's doing something new, which I really appreciate. Sabrina Carpenter, who I also love. A lot of traces of Britney and like there's some Christina Aguilera a little bit in there too, a bit like, and again, I like that music. I'm not mad about it, but it's just like,
but it is like the major label. The major label saying, we need this generation's Christina Aguilera, so they go make Sabrina Carpenter.
Yes.
But it's just like, it just feels been there, done that. I mean, the whole night I was bored. I mean, that's what I think. It was like, there's just this weird contrast of like, man, this just feels retread. And like this, Jesse, to your point at the very beginning, that's still a thing. Dude, it's not a thing. I mean, it's like, it's over.
But is it like an indictment on and it might be, I mean, you guys, especially Derek would know better, but like, is it an indictment on the state of music or why is MTV still a thing? And what are they, you know what I mean? Like MTV, just as like a brand and an idea, is basically reruns of
ridiculousness,
Rob Dyrdek, and an occasional like
Jersey
reality show competition, right? Like that's the entirety of the network. Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Huge fan of my man Scott Derrickson, who directed the first Doctor Strange, which one of my favorite Marvel movies to come out. It was very unique, very fresh. Well, the actual Doctor Strange 2, people hated it. Like even Marvel fans was like, okay, this is terrible. You got Sam Raimi directing it, legendary horror film director, but it didn't land. And the reason why, the actual Doctor Strange 2, the original draft got leaked online this week, talking about what the movie could have been as opposed to what it actually was. And you want to know what happened? Scott had an idea. Everybody from the original cast had an idea, and Disney wanted to go a different direction because they thought more about the product marketing than they actually thought about making a good film. And what they did was they came in, changed all Scott's stuff, and Scott left. Well, the movie flopped. And when you find out the people that actually did the new Doctor Strange, they didn't even watch any of the stuff that had to do with the characters before. They weren't really reading the comic books. They didn't watch the WandaVision show. They didn't even watch the show that precursored the film. And it's the same thing that's happening with music. It's not being treated like an art form or something that people actually value. So, Jesse, to answer your question, everybody is at fault. The people that's throwing out a song a week and they're farting out a song a week trying to go viral, they're at fault. Because
they're diluting the music, the quality or the value of it.
They stop caring about the art because they're trying to go viral. You know what I'm saying? I would say that the people that cut all those A&Rs and those developmental staff people to try to get more money out of this, they're at fault. It's because we stopped taking time with the product. And we started caring less about the product and more about the efficiency of making money of it. And we're seeing that across everything. Like, we're seeing that across tech. You're seeing that across, like, have you seen some of the new houses that are being built? Like, they're trash. And it's because everybody is thinking more about how can I cut so many corners to make money, as opposed to like, man, how can I make an actual good house that someone will want to live in for the next 30 years? We're not thinking, how can I make a good album that we're going to want to replay 10 years from now? We're just like, man, let's strike while the iron's hot. You know, you went viral, get them out there, put them on tour, you know?
There's an idea I think about a lot, especially as, you know, someone, and I'm sure you guys are in the same boat too in the creative field, but the idea of organically engineering something creative versus reverse engineering something creative. Like, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, well, what is the intended outcome of whatever I'm working on? Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me think about that. And then what are other things that are doing what I want to accomplish? What can I learn from that? And I'm starting at the end and slowly working myself back to the beginning to figure out what this is, you know,
right? Versus,
hey, I have an idea and I just want to kind of work on this and build it and see where it goes. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and it sounds like part of the indictment that you have for the process here, Derek, that a lot of creatives have fallen into is they're trying to reverse engineer everything instead of just engineering it. Like, I know, Cameron, I know we briefly talked about the Beatles the other day, but like, I watched this Beatles documentary where they basically had a week to turn around an album and they hadn't really talked to each other in years. And it wasn't like, all right, we need this kind of pop song, we need a ballad. They weren't trying to reverse engineer. It's literally them sitting in a room for 12 days, just playing and seeing what emerges. And it's like, I think to your point, Derek, it seems like we've lost that, but I think it's easy to get guilty of that reverse engineering instead of engineering, you know?
Yeah. I think that's just happening across the board, you know, and what I hope is that the numbers either keep falling until someone figures it out. Like, hey, we need to start making good art again. Like, we need to start making, I hope that the housing market, you know, I hope people have houses, but I hope people start building great houses again. And I hope we start making houses more affordable that people can live in instead of just trying to make these quick flips. Like, I think it matters.
What changes things is when, you know, things like the pendulum swung so far that like everything's formulaic now. They're cut all these corners. They're not developing new artists. I get it. What's going to make that change is that it stops making money, right?
Yep.
So I'm looking at 13 channels, total viewership of 3 million people. People do not care about this era of music. Look at the charts. 50 out of the top 100 Billboard top 100 albums this year are country. Where's hip hop? Where's pop? Where's new waves of music trends emerging? Nothing. I mean, so it's like the entire music industry, I think, is maybe this year hitting that rock bottom where it's like, this approach we've taken ever since streaming started 10 years ago, it's run out. It's run its course. Nobody cares anymore. We've got to rethink the whole model. Hopefully. So hopefully the VMAs will spur change. That's what we're saying. All right. Well, let's move the show along. Stay tuned. Up next, it's Slices.
Back in my day.
Exactly. You're listening to Midnight Trust. The song is Husk.
Put this at the top of your must-read list. A brand new novel, American Prophet by Jeff Fulmer. In American Prophet, Peter has a dream revealing the outcome of the presidential election and feels compelled to share it with whomever will listen. As dreams of other major events keep coming to Peter and keep coming true, he soon gains notoriety and is heralded as a modern-day prophet. Along with all the hype Peter receives, also come the naysayers, including his chief critic, the President of the United States. Conspiracy theories and violent threats force Peter to go on the run, driving him deeper into the heart of a divided nation. Through it all, Peter strives to remain true to his calling wherever it may lead him. It's the thrilling story of someone who discovers they have the unique gift of predicting significant future societal, political, and natural events, and the backlash that follows with that gift. American Prophet's on sale now on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. Just look for American Prophet by Jeff Fulmer.
Okay, it's time for
Slices.
What do you have, Jesse?
All right. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there's a big international murder mystery that's playing out in real time right now. I don't know if you guys heard. Usually
when you say, I don't know if you've heard about this, you're talking about like, there's a presidential election happening. You usually do that as a joke. You're really talking about, I have not heard about this. Tell us, please.
Put me on.
A few years ago, a Russian spy escaped sort of his duty in working for the Kremlin, and briefly became known to authorities, and then since then has been popping up here and there throughout these Scandinavian countries. But he's got a really weird backstory, and recently this spy was found dead under very mysterious circumstances. But there is a twist in this. The spy is a beluga whale.
I thought you were talking about like the spy that was killed in that London cafe. He was poisoned. No, the beluga whale. A beluga.
I don't think a beluga whale can spy on anyone.
Well,
I heard years ago, now that you're saying this, I'm remembering that I heard years ago that Russia was training, like, because we joked about it, that it was like sharks with lasers on their head, but it wasn't. It was literally, they were strapping spy equipment to whales. Right?
Yes. So as I was reading the story, I clicked on a link in the story. You know how like when you're reading in a news article and whatever, and it says like Russia has a long history of weaponizing sea mammals, and it said and weaponizing sea mammals was underlined. I'm like, well, I'm definitely clicking that. So I've been down this rabbit hole all morning, guys. So a couple years ago, a beluga whale was circling a fishing vessel out in the ocean, trying to get the attention of the people on the boat. And it had a harness around it with like camera and like radar equipment on it. And the people on the boat took was like, oh, this whale wants us to take this harness off. The harness said property of St. Petersburg, and it was spy equipment. And ever since then, this whale, it's never really socially acclimated, and it's obsessed with people. It just has been going to different Scandinavian like beaches and interacting with people, and they've been kind of tracking it on and off. Anyway, it was tragically found dead this week, and they don't know how. But it was not natural circumstances. It had a stick in its mouth. Its organs were deteriorated. Maybe it had been poisoned or something. Do you think
another beluga whale poisoned it?
It could have been another spy mammal, but
spy whale.
But evidently, Russia's been doing this for a long time and has a bunch of weaponized dolphins, whales, and seals they have trained.
We were just talking about innovation.
Russia's different, bro.
They're innovating over there. I'll give them that.
Russia's different.
What are they going to accomplish? What data are they collecting?
Well, exactly. Well, I guess they're really good. Well, some of them seem to be trained to harass. There was reports of fishing vessels that were near Russian territory of other countries, and the whales were literally bumping the boats and trying to scare the fish away.
Do you remember last year when there were those the orca whales that were attacking? I think that was off the coast of Florida, maybe. But
I don't know if those were spy whales. But the other thing, I guess they're really good at underwater mine detection. So if you think there's underwater mines,
floating mines, that makes sense. The old World War II.
I thought you were saying mind, like your brain.
No, not telepathy.
I was like, wait, how is that?
The whales got telepathy.
but also just basic naval surveillance. Like,
right.
if you're a boat in a harbor, right? Like, sonar technology will be like, oh, there's an enemy submarine here trying to gather intel on our coast. But if a couple dolphins swim by, that's not going to raise any red flags. But but they can train these dolphins to become spies. So, I mean, I'm sad about that. I mean, it seems pretty tragic about this whale. But the bigger story is these weaponized sea mammals, as the news story that I clicked on identifies them, are pretty prevalent.
Vladimir Putin does not care, bro.
He rides bears shirtless.
That's Bond villain status.
That's wild.
It's like an evil Snow White.
Save the whales. He weaponized them.
Well, like other countries are trying to modernize so human life doesn't have to be in harm's way combat wise. So we're going to fight our wars with drones and robots and, humanoid, all these other things that we're trying to innovate. Russia's like, well, we don't want people to die either. So we're just going to strap weapons onto all the animals. And there's just going to be a flood of all the animals are going to fight the wars.
Beluga whale was just minding his own business. They kidnapped him and strapped a laser to the back of his head.
Can you imagine being in the Coast Guard? You're just chilling out one day. You're on your boat doing your patrol duty, and there's a freaking narwhal just like booking it towards you, horn out. The narwhal's coming at me, man. I think someone weaponized that narwhal.
Wait,
he's trying to tell me something with his telepathy. Yeah.
Did it clarify like how many beluga whale spies there are? Was it just this one, or are there like a fleet of them?
No, yeah, there's. Well, I don't think anyone knows the exact number, but this wasn't like a one-off.
Yeah. How are they?
It's Russia.
How are they allowed to? But I'm talking about international. There has to be some international laws that protect animals. I mean, like there's no international laws that they can hold these guys accountable for.
This whole invasion and it breaks international law.
I was going to say I don't think they're overly concerned about international law.
I do think we just found our next Tiger King documentary, though.
Spy whale?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure Tiger King guy would have. Well, I mean, I don't know if he'd survive making a Russia documentary, but I think he would have a lot of fun doing it.
Yep. All right. What do you have, Emily?
Okay, so there was some news that came out this week that Nevada is planning to launch a generative AI system that is going to analyze a bunch of unemployment appeals to basically speed up the process for unemployment and stuff. And it's really, a lot of people are having some issues with this because there's this AI will be reviewing unemployment appeals to determine if they'll be getting benefits, and people are not comfortable with a robot essentially making that decision because it's just but other people are arguing you could maybe get benefits quicker. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. We talk a lot about AI and it's this is something that I could see helping a lot of people, but it just feels like we're too soon on it.
I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't trust it.
You wouldn't trust it?
No. Type AI will mess up asking you to write a caption for certain things. I just don't know if we needed to be looking at people's unemployment benefits right now. We're going into maybe later, once, unemployment is we figured out inflation and all of that. Let's wait till the system is a little bit more it's not, the stakes aren't so high.
That's why they're wanting to use it, is because there's been so much unemployment out there. There's everything's backlogged. So all these people who've lost their jobs, they're not getting any benefits yet. So they're trying to use AI to speed it along. But people are arguing well, what if my appeal doesn't go through? Then
at what point, if I'm applying for unemployment, do I just turn to AI and be like, hey, fill out my unemployment application and make sure your buddy AI will approve this? You know what I mean? Yeah. Real talk, though. I mean,
facts.
I'm all for it. Go for it.
We need to innovate. System.
We need to make the government more efficient.
No,
all right, what do you have?
We don't. Shut up, Cameron.
All right, what do you have, Derek?
So Kendrick Lamar is having a year.
Yes, he is.
Of years. This is one of those, I told someone this is a 50 cents get rich or die trying run where it's this is very, very special. And he just dropped a song this week called Black Air Forces. And he mentions two people that we know, Lecrae and D1. I'm going to read the lyric. He says, sometimes I wonder what Lecrae would do, mess these dudes up or show them what prayer do. I want to be empathetic, my heart like D1.
Crazy.
And I just think that it's so amazing that these two guys, because I know both of them personally, and they're good men. And it's sometimes you think you're not making an impact. You think no one's listening. And just encourage everybody out there, like, people are listening. They're watching you, and they respect the art enough. Kendrick respected the art enough to say something about it publicly. So I thought this was a real good, feel-good story. We talk a lot about the church and how sometimes it doesn't make as much impact, but right now we're seeing some tangible impact that's even got Kendrick Lamar thinking. So
one of my favorite things about this, I mean, it was so funny that night when it dropped. Like, we got a group chat, and when the stuff was going back and forth, like, Marty would, like, 10 seconds after it hit YouTube or whatever, Marty was sending it to the, and so, like, literally I'm just there watching TV Wednesday night and on the couch, and Marty texts us, boom, Kendrick just posted a new track. And we're all nobody even replied to Marty because we all clicked to listen to it. Mm-hmm. And we all heard the lyric at the same time. Yeah. It was like, I paused it. I'm like, did I just hear Lecrae? And then literally Marty typed out the lyric all caps, and then Prop is like, we're all like, man, what is happening right now? It's crazy.
Super powerful.
It's funny because you said Kendrick's having a good year, which I agree he is, but Lecrae also is having a really good week because he obviously got mentioned in the Kendrick song. Over on Threads, Simone Biles just randomly talked about how she was a fan of Lecrae. Like, so it is really cool that, like, these big athletes and these big stars are, like, acknowledging it, like acknowledging what he's doing. One
of my favorite stories about this is people have been asking, like, does Kendrick know Lecrae? Like, how does that work? Whatever. So one of the stories is that Kendrick, they do know each other. And years ago, Kendrick said to Lecrae, hey, man, when we do our album together and bring those two worlds together, it's going to change everything, kind of a thing. And Lecrae never pursued that idea with Kendrick of doing a feature or a project with him because he said, I was more concerned about our relationship, and I didn't want him to ever think that I was using him for my career or whatever. And I care more about him than I do making music with him. And I that's beautiful. And so that's, like, to your testament of what you're saying, like, behind closed doors, Lecrae is a good dude, a high character dude. And people notice, people in the industry know it.
And I was talking to D1 after it happened because D1 is me and him are real tight, and we got some business together. But I was telling him, it's not the fact that Kendrick mentioned you. It's the fact of why he mentioned you.
He mentioned your character.
He mentioned the fact that he wants to be like you. He wants to be empathetic. And I think that if there's any believers out there, regardless, let's take music off of it. But if it's any believers out there that are like, man, am I taking the high road for no reason? The answer is no. The answer is you are taking the high road because people are watching you. And they see the sacrifices that you make, and they may not always acknowledge them, but keep going, man. I just wanted to encourage y'all with that.
Integrity is what you do when no one's looking, and people still see it, though. You know what I mean? They see the integrity, the real integrity that people exhibit. But
wait, Derek, did D1 say, like, did he know beforehand that it was happening, or did he find out with the rest of the world? Okay.
Oh, Find out with the rest of the world.
It's wild.
That's crazy.
That's cool.
So cool. Can you imagine? You just sitting there scrolling Instagram. You hear your name? I can't imagine. That's nuts.
And it's crazy because D1 spent a lot of last year and this year calling out some of the craziness in hip hop music and got a lot of flack for it. He stood his ground. Got a lot of flack for it. A lot of people, even death threats, all those different things. And it's just beautiful to see a little love for bro. So super excited for him.
Which I saw he posted, like, a throwback picture with Kendrick. So he's known him, I think, for a while too. And then someone reminded me, Kendrick was in the Church Clothes music video at the very beginning with Lecrae. Y'all should go back and watch it.
Oh yeah. I didn't remember that, but that's crazy.
Are you serious?
There's like it's like him talking, like, for like 2 seconds, but
I'm in a music video, a Lecrae music video.
Really?
I remember that.
I am. The one Blessings with Ty Dolla Signs.
Yeah. I was in it too. That was hilarious.
Wait, what song is it?
Blessings with Ty Dolla Signs.
Oh.
It was his kind of crossover hit a few years ago, like 5 years ago. Yeah. I was in LA for the Grammys doing something, and Prop met up with me, and he's like, hey, Lecrae's shooting a music video. We should roll through. And I was like, sure, and we're there, and it's like, I forget what neighborhood it was, but the theme of it was family barbecue, at the house, the whole family, all the friends, whatever. That was the theme of it. I'm the only white person on set. And so we're just visiting, saying hey to everybody and just hanging out and talking. And next thing we know, we're sitting on the front porch. Next thing we know, we see them, they're rolling. I mean, they're shooting something in the front yard, whatever. And I look at the director, like, do I got to get out of here? And they're like, nah, every barbecue has one random white friend you can hang, so I'm there in the background. You'll see the little white face is me. So
easy to see.
You didn't know this, or maybe you did, but we were in the middle of a blood neighborhood. So that was a blessing that
I wish in it that Cameron had brought something to the barbecue that was evident. Like Cameron's there walking up with
salad.
green bean casserole.
Director's like, no, we're just gonna go with it, man. Grab that green bean casserole, walk it
and
up,
make sure nobody touches it, because that's what's gonna happen.
Prop told me where we were. I didn't want to say that on the show because I didn't want to sound like the scared white guy thinking that all the black neighborhoods are blood. But no, he told me where we were.
Black guy.
Yeah, he told me where we were. I was going to walk back to the car, and Prop's like, I'm going with you. I mean, seriously, he was like
Cameron's like, Prop, I need you to walk back to the car with me. I've left the casserole in there, and it's starting to smell. But the
potato salad is starting to turn. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for
Slices.
Man, I love weeks like this where faith, culture collide. It's really cool. All right, stay tuned. Carlos Whittaker joins us next.
I've been praying for peace. I'm talking to shadow. Let the green grass grow over me. Over me. Out where the wind blows. Let the green grass grow over me. Over me.
You're listening to Future Islands. The song is Glimpse. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by World Vision. We all subscribe to a lot of services that make our lives easier and more entertaining. But as followers of Jesus, we should want to seek first the kingdom of God in all areas of life, including our spending. That's why I'm so excited about a new kind of subscription through World Vision. Not one for myself, but for others. It's called Believers for World Change. And when you sign up, you're joining a community of change makers working to help end extreme poverty around the world and here at home. World Vision is a Christian humanitarian organization that works with children, families, and communities to reach their God-given potential, focusing on things like gender equality, spiritual nurture, and access to clean water, education, job training, and healthcare, so the entire picture of poverty can be addressed. Let's subscribe to something new together. Subscribe to World Change today at worldvision.org. Again, that's worldvision.org. Our guest today is Carlos Whittaker. He's a Nashville-based speaker, an author, an influencer. We've all heard about the benefits of social media detoxes, but Carlos really wanted to experience it for himself. That's what led him to giving up technology for 7 weeks and living with monks and Amish farmers. He spoke with us about the life-changing experience and what others can learn from his adventure. Here's our conversation with Carlos Whittaker.
Well, let's just get into it. Why and how did you end up living with monks and Amish farmers for 7 weeks?
Exactly. We all get our screen time notification, whether you're on an Android or an Apple phone, an iPhone, on Sundays. It comes by and we normally just don't even look at it because I'm just like, I don't want to feel bad about myself. I don't want the phone to shame me and whatever. But I decided to do the math one day and just see what my 7 hours, I think it was 7 hours and 23 minutes is what I'd averaged. And, initially, Emily, I was just like, but this is what I do for a living. I'm on Instagram, I make YouTube videos. So I kind of excused it. But then the math told me that it was 49 hours a week that I was on my phone. And I was like, wow, that's 2 whole days of the sun going up and down that I'm looking at my phone, which equals 3 months a year, which that I remember not being able to breathe. I literally don't live for 3 months of the year. I stare at this thing. And then I kept doing the math. And if I end up to live to be 85 years old or something, I can't remember exactly how old, but I'll spend over a decade looking at a screen. And this is just my phone. This isn't TV. This isn't my laptop. This is just my phone. So me being me, I was like, okay, what do I do? And so I'm always just trying to figure out how to help not only myself, but other people. So I emailed my agent and I was like, what if I didn't look at a screen for 7 days? That's what it started off as. 7 days. And what if I moved in? I think I was like, what if I moved in to a cabin somewhere? He's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know if that'd be interesting enough, And I was like, really? So then it kept going at 14 days, 21 days. And then I emailed Dr. Daniel Amen in Los Angeles at the Amen Clinics. He's a neuroscientist. And I said, well, how long do you think? Well, I asked him 2 questions. How long do you think it would take for my brain to actually change? And if I did this, and number 2, would you scan my brain? So he answered the second question first and said, absolutely, I'll scan it before and after. He goes, but you're going to need to do about 2 months. I was like, what? So that was terrifying. But I kind of at the same time was like, you know what? There's all these books about how bad phones are. And there's all these people telling me how bad this thing is. I'm like, but none of these people have ever done anything about it. Like legitimately, no one's ever done it. So I was like, if there's ever been a perfect lab rat to do an experiment like this, it's me. So I flew to LA, got my brain scanned, and ended up living with monks for then that's a whole other story. So how I got to the monks, I lived with monks for 2 weeks. I lived with the Amish for 2 weeks, and then I lived with my family for 3 weeks. So it was 7 total weeks with no screen. The monastery was in the high desert of Southern California, and my wife's father, so my father-in-law, who I never met, he passed away before we got married, but he used to be like a high-level volunteer at this monastery and knew all the monks. So they knew my wife when she was like 5 years old running around the abbey. And so Heather called the abbot that she knew when she was a little girl, and he's like, oh, Heather, I remember you, and she's like, so my husband wants to live with you guys like for a week or 2. Oh, yes, have him come. So that's how I got in with the monks. And then the Amish, I have a friend of mine who married a former Amish. So when they met when they were 18, he was Amish, she wasn't, and he left the Amish to marry her. He's still close with his family and with the community, so he's the one that put in the good word for me, and I ended up living with the Amish for 2 weeks. So there we are.
I'm having a really hard time imagining my own life and thinking about what I would do for 7 weeks without a phone.
Totally. And people, just so they know, the book, I did it for 7 weeks, so you don't have to. Like, legitimately, like I did it, and every chapter, this is the most, I think, applicable book I've ever written, to where every single thing that I learned, or actually relearned, because we've just forgotten how to live without our phones. And so I kind of relearned how to do that. And I'm like, you know what? These are things that we can actually still do with our phones. Like, so the book isn't like the phone is bad. The book is what's beautiful on the other side of the phone. And so, I mean, the phone, this is great. I mean, I do a lot of great things on my phone. So it's not like I'm not like shaming people and not looking at your phone. I've just given us probably about 20 things that we can kind of reconnect with that'll actually make us pick our phones up less.
What were some of the surprising things you learned on this journey?
Well, for me, I mean, the monks were awesome. The Amish were awesome. I had a blast, like shearing sheep and, chanting in Latin and all the things that, it's like, what? So, and I talk about all those things in the book too. I think it is a fascinating peek into 2 different subcultures. But what I learned, let's start with wondering. What I realized about 7 hours into this thing, I went to the monks first, right? So I went from 7.5 hours a day to Monkland, 23 hours a day of silence. You don't eat any meals speaking except for lunch. So like you're eating with monks and guests, like in total silence. It was just it was the craziest thing. But I remember I was in one of they pray 6 times a day in the chapel. It was one of the 6 times. And I started wondering, well, I wonder why they do this 6 times a day. So when I started wondering that, I reached to my phone, but it wasn't there. And I was like, oh my God, I just have to wonder. I actually can't find the answer. And it started to hit me day after day that we're the first generation to legitimately have lost the skill of wondering. Like, wondering is over. If you're with a group of friends and you say, hey, I wonder, you pick up the phone and Google ruins wonder within 1 second flat, and we find out everything. I did not have the opportunity to know things like that anymore. I had to wonder constantly, and the wondering led to questions, which I think led to more questions, which led to creativity, which led to, and I was like, what are we missing because we find the answers so quickly now? So that was like one thing. Wondering is gone. Solitude is gone. We no longer have, this is a study done in, there's this book right here called The Lonely Century. And I read this book before mine, and it talks about how we're the first few generations to legitimately not have access to solitude anymore. Solitude is gone. Those are some of those initial things that I was like, wow, like I'm really in it. But some of the other things, Emily, was when I was with the Amish and I had to go somewhere. So Willis, the sheep farmer, was like, hey, Carlos, I need you to go to the feed store to pick up some, this part for my tractor. And then I was like, okay. And he'd send me away on the e-bike, but he would have to tell me how to get there. And I would just have to remember. And then so like a 20-minute e-bike ride in Mount Hope, Ohio ended up being like 2 hours long because I kept getting lost. But then I'd get lost and I'd meet somebody and I was like, hey, so like, can you tell me how to get to the feed store? Oh yeah, you took a wrong turn. You're going to go down here. Tell me about yourself. What are you doing around here? Because obviously I don't look like everyone else in Amish land. And then I start talking. Next thing you know, I'm talking for 20 minutes and their kids are coming out and I'm kicking the ball with the kids. And I just realized as humans, we no longer get lost and find our way. Like that's something that I feel like is intrinsic to the human experience. So, what are things I've done now? I legitimately now look up directions before I go somewhere and I write them down on a piece of paper or a napkin, just like it was 1985. And then I just drive. And then sometimes I get lost. And guess what? I don't know if maps now will reroute you if there's an accident or traffic. You know what? So I have to sit in traffic for an extra 7 minutes if I don't know something. So they were just like daily things that I go through in the book. And there's about 20 of them that we've forgotten how to do that I've given us handlebars again to recapture wondering, to recapture getting lost and finding our way, to recapturing the table. The average American meal 100 years ago was 90 minutes long. Average American meal was 90 minutes long. The Amish, their average meal averaged about an hour and 15 minutes. When I was there, we just talk, we'd argue about things, but we'd do it over our collective love for food. The average American meal in 2023 is 12 minutes long. So suddenly there was something else that I was able to reconnect with that I'm like, this is why we can't even disagree with things with other people and figure out a way to get past those things because we're not even face-to-face sharing these conversations over meals. And so, I'm telling you, Emily, like I literally you could ask me that one question and I could not stop talking for the next 4 hours because there was so much goodness that I had to reconnect with on the other side of my screen. And again, all these things make me pick up my phone a lot less.
That was Carlos Whittaker. Make sure to check out his newest book, Reconnected, How 7 Screen-Free Weeks with Monks and Amish Farmers Helped Me Recover the Lost Art of Being Human. It's out now. All right, stay tuned up next. It's the Unpopular Opinion Roundtable. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by Wired to Fish Coffee. So many companies are not rooted in Christian principles nowadays. However, they do exist. Meet Wired to Fish Coffee. Founded by Christian anglers who are crazy about the love of Jesus for his people, Wired to Fish Coffee gives back 25% of their net profits to faith-based programs and clean water initiatives. Wired to Fish Coffee also offers a smooth, robust taste rivaling any coffee shop brew. Give Wired to Fish Coffee a try today and join a community of people making a positive impact. Use code WECARE at wired2fishcoffee wiredcoffee.com at checkout and get an additional bag for free. You can make a difference. Again, that's wired, 2, fishcoffee.com. Okay, it is time for the Unpopular Opinion Roundtable.
Welcome to the round table, where every thought is unstable. Speak your mind, let's have a ball. Unpopular opinions, we love them all.
Unpopular opinions, we love them all.
A
There
lot
you
of
go.
people aren't aware that is verse 1 of 12. And we'll be playing it in its entirety.
In its
after
entirety.
the show.
Unstable thoughts, we will have a ball. Unpopular opinions, we love them all.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Emmy weekend, so we want to do an unpopular opinion roundtable around TV shows. Give me some of your unpopular opinions.
I love Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but I do 100% believe both of those shows, instead of being 5 seasons, could have been condensed into 1. They are the slowest plotting, like... We'll spend 3 episodes trying to, dispose of a body.
That's
okay?
the beauty
that
of
could
those
be a
shows.
scene.
Oh, come
No.
on.
I'm
right.
just saying it could be
That is
done.
an unpopular opinion.
Well, I stand by it.
I do get that though, like, because sometimes when I watch like these dramas, which are great, like, I'll binge them, and it's like by the time I'm on season 3, they mention something that's like, oh, this happened 6 months ago, and I'm like, that was the first episode. Like, we've only made it 6 months of time in 3 seasons. Like, we should maybe be moving a little bit quicker here. I can kind of agree with that.
Okay. Go ahead.
Friends
Derek.
was overrated and relied too much on laugh tracks, and it was a ripoff of a black show
Living Single.
called Living Single.
Yeah.
So, how do you make a bad version of something that was original?
Exactly.
Listen, I do want to come out and say I do like Friends, but I also do agree. Like, I've seen edits where they take off the laugh track, and it does.
Funny.
Yeah,
it is
it
tough.
isn't
It's
funny.
tough.
It
Okay,
ain't that funny.
my hot take after I spent 30 minutes talking about the latest reality trash TV I've been watching the other day is that I do think reality TV shows deserve some more like Emmy recognition right now, because one, they really are so entertaining, and I also think that they are harder to produce than a scripted show, because like, you, even though some are like a little scripted, you really don't know what's going to happen. Like in a show like The Office, you're writing, like, you know what's going to happen in those 22 minutes because you're writing that exactly. With reality TV, you might throw out a plot idea, but there is in a way, there's a lot of like improv there. And like, I don't know, I just think we should give them a little more recognition. Make it so that way I feel a little more valid when I spend 6 hours binge watching it.
I just think like I think all they do recognize is ones like Amazing Race and Big Brother,
Yeah,
like the
game
competition
competition
ones.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's you're just advocating that the Mormon wives need a category to win. That's what you're
They
saying.
deserve some sort of award, okay?
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
Got
Here, okay. I recently had to resubscribe to Peacock against my will because they had
I'll just give you my
the
login.
Friday night football game, and I wanted to watch it. And it's so stupid, but I had to do it for a month because of this dumb NFL. Anyway, so I've been rewatching some Office over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Or last week or
Watch.
so.
Be careful what you say.
Here
You're
is
talking
my
about
hot
my
take.
kids now. You're basically okay.
Here is my hot take. If Peacock released a version of The Office with the B plots edited out, it would be so much more fun to watch. So, like, as I'm watching episodes, like, Pam going out on the date with the cartoon artist, or Jim playing Call of Duty cut them. Like, those plots get in the way of funny stuff with Michael and Dwight. Like, any B plot in The Office, cut it out, and I bet the show works even better.
I'm surprised you said that, because you said your favorite character is Creed, and Creed is
Only
nothing
ever
but
has
B
B
plots.
plots.
That's all he is B plots.
He is a B plot.
But I'll say, no, I will say this though.
And
I think of Creed. Creed's greatest moments are when he punctuates the A plot, in my opinion. Like, it's not like Creed's not like the Finer Things Club or whatever. Like, I want to see him interact with Michael or be something funny in the main plot. I'm just saying, a lot of the B plots if you're watching it, you're like, can I just fast forward through this and get to Michael and Dwight back doing hijinks?
As someone who has watched, I can recite every episode, right? So like I've watched too many of them, and now I've watched all the super fan ones that are on Peacock, the extended cut ones.
Yeah.
What they add is more Creed and more like weird takeaways and weird little moments that are commenting on the A plot. So like the super fan stuff will give you more of like that weird kind of like twist stuff, but not whole storylines getting cut out. It's just a little bit more jokes around the main storyline. But anyway, here's you one little Office Insider thing that I learned listening to one of their podcasts. I had no clue about this, but it's so brilliant. So they shot it in a real office. I mean, so the crew and everything is just in this room together. And as they're shooting all day long, like they have to start at 6 a.m. and the cast has to be in the background because it's an office and they don't know how they're going to edit together. So everybody has to just sit there and they really are just like playing solitaire on their computers for 8 hours a day if they weren't shooting a scene because they're background characters. Well, the annex is like, why is there an annex? Why are there a few employees that aren't in there? Those employees were the show's writers. Toby, Kelly, and Ryan were writers on the show. Yeah. So during the shooting day, there's a lot of improv and adapting and writing on the fly. Well, the writers had to be in another room working on the scripts, and they couldn't be in the background while the things are being shot. So they put them in an annex.
Crazy.
So they could be off camera and then explained why they were not in the background. Isn't it interesting?
I didn't know Toby was a writer.
Yeah.
He wrote the character that everybody hates.
Yeah. I think he did that on purpose. So just
I
just make fun of himself.
I love that.
Go.
Oh, so my take is that I wish we got rid of streaming and just went back to network television so we get stuff like TGI Friday back. Because I think TV shows would be better. Everything would be better if we just went back to how it was. Like, just let's get rid of all the 15 different streaming channels. Just give me NBC, CBS, ABC, and let's just knock out, 4 shows a evening. As
a person who watches a lot of TV and streaming, I pay for the ad free on everything. So I watch, that's a 22-minute show. It's a 22-minute show. I'm not sitting there with 8 minutes of commercials, right? That's what I can't imagine going back to, is sitting through 20 minutes of content taking 50% longer than it needs to. That to me, like I don't know that I could ever get back to it.
I do get that, but I agree with Derek that because we've seen it, I think some streaming channels are recognizing that because they've been releasing shows weekly. And I think the reason they're doing that is because it is more interesting when a show, you have time to digest it. You have time to talk about each episode with your friends versus you drop 8 episodes that are an hour long and you got to wait. Like maybe I'm on episode 4, but you're only on episode 1. Then we can't talk about it until you finish it. Like
get back to the water cooler. The water cooler
appointment viewing, essentially. Yeah.
Binging the episodes was cool when we couldn't do it. Now I'm like, let's get back to the water cooler. I like not having spoilers on the show, if I haven't caught it. I like that.
I just have learned to accept spoilers. It's if I don't watch it the minute it drops, something's going to be spoiled for me, which stinks, but it's it's just the era we're in.
Yep.
All right. So I got one more hot take, and it's not related to television, but movies. I recently on Disney Plus watched the film Heavyweights, which I thought was hilarious as a child, right? And Ben Stiller in that movie plays a fitness fanatic who ends up going insane named Tony Perkis. Okay. It's really funny, right? It still holds up. Okay. I realized watching this that Tony Perkis is the same character as he later plays in Dodgeball. And I don't just mean this. I don't just mean Ron Burgundy is just Will Ferrell's Robert Goulet, right? They're the same character. He just adapted it, right? He just took Robert Goulet and made him a news anchor, right? I think they are the same story.
So there's a cinematic universe, a Dodgeball cinematic universe.
Heavyweights is the origin story, because in Heavyweights you find out he struggled with self-image and things, and that's why he's doing this camp for these kids. But he ends up taking it too far, and he goes insane and is taken away. You find out in Dodgeball that his character, the gym owner, also had self body image. and goes insane in the same way that Tony Perkis does. I'm telling you, watch these two films. I think Heavyweights is the origin story for Dodgeball. That is a hot take.
That's a beautiful hot take.
Let's go. I'm doing it today.
Yeah.
So
Heavyweights is my favorite Ben Stiller movie. Like, that's my favorite performance of his. He's so
Jesse,
funny.
you need to do a YouTube channel like people do, like finding all the connectedness in the Pixar movies, you know, like this is in the background of that, and this kid is in Monsters Inc. and that kid's in Toy Story and all that. You need to do that for the Ben Stiller cinematic universe. Like just connect all of his characters.
But I'm telling you, if watch Heavyweights or just go watch some Tony Perkis scenes on YouTube and then watch some scenes as him or as the Dodgeball guy. It's the same kid. They wear purple spandex, like they dress the same. Like,
hold on.
Well, you know, like in the writer's room, then for Dodgeball, he probably came up with that idea. Like I should lean onto that character that I did, or lean into it. Anyway,
That's so funny.
Again, but I don't just think it's like the same character as in like he adapted it.
Similar, yeah.
I think it is an
It's
origin
the same
story.
character. That's so funny.
I now need you to connect all Ben Stiller movies because now I'm curious the pipeline from Heavyweights to Dodgeball tonight at the museum. Gotta
It's a
figure
Royal
that out.
Tenenbaums.
It's up.
I love
it.
He's got
All
a good
right.
cinematography. Whatever
Ben
the
Stiller
word is.
movies hold up better than other 90s and 2000s.
You can say
comedy.
it, Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
You can say it.
I never was an Adam Sandler fan. I mean,
I used
Were
to
you?
love. I liked. What was the Happy Gilmore?
Happy Gilmore. You know what though? You know what they're shooting right now for
no.
Netflix? A Happy Gilmore 2.
I'm with it.
Are you really? I'm just going to direct to streaming sequel
wanna
that
check
nobody
it out.
asked for.
He has to make like
He's been
15
running it
movies
up
for
on
Netflix.
though.
He has to make like
He's got
15
some
movies
gems
for
on
him.
there. Yeah.
I just wish he's so good at drama. I just wish in this phase of his career he would, push the envelope, make art, and not just rehash 90s stuff we didn't ask for.
I don't disagree, but the only drama he's done is Uncut Gems.
No, funny people.
Click had a little
Click?
drama to it.
It did.
had
Yeah.
some
Click is a
That's
lot more
hard.
depressing than
what's the one? Something stories.
Click was fire, though.
He had the basketball coach one where he was. It was like a gritty indie movie that he did part of this Netflix deal. It was great.
It was good. Yeah.
Okay, all right, that'll do it for.
Welcome to the round table, where every thought is unstable. Speak your mind, let's have a ball. Unpopular opinions, we love them all.
Well, many thanks to Carlos Whittaker for joining us today. Make sure to check out his new book, Reconnected. It is out now. Also, make sure to reconnect with Relevant Magazine. The digital issue 115 is out now. You can read it for free. Just click the magazine tab there at relevantmagazine.com. If you want the beautiful digital magazine, subscribe to Relevant Plus. You get the mag sent to you. You also get ad-free, unlimited reading at the website, and you get an ad-free version of this podcast, plus more coming. Find all the info at the site, and plans start as low as $250 a month. All right, on that note, we'll wrap it up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Emily Brown.
We'll see you on Friday. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
I haven't deeply interrogated, but I was just a couple nights ago, I was watching Heavyweights. I'm like, dude, this is the same guy. And if I'm recalling the origin stories in Dodgeball, he becomes a fitness fanatic because he's very had body images growing up, but they have the same, but they're also obviously on the edge of psychological breakdowns at all points. And that is the plot of, Heavyweights takes a dark turn. At one point, they lock him in an electrified cage because he's having a mental breakdown on these kids.
No, it's so
it's
great.
still
I love
hilarious.
it.
Yeah.
Wait, did your kids I'm assuming you watched it with your kids. Did they enjoy it?
Haley did not get the humor of Tony Perkis. She was terrified of him. Noah thought it was funny.
And you know what? That is actually a valid
what's wrong with
reaction.
this guy? Yeah. I mean, in the movie, he's a legitimate psychopath.
Yeah.
That movie would never be made today for a number of reasons.
For so
Primarily,
many reasons.
the antagonist is absolutely terrifine. If you're
It's
not
also
watching
set
it
at a
through the
fat camp for kids.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
of course
well,
not
that's what I
getting
mean.
made in
There's-
2024.
I gotta watch it, bro. That's
I
crazy.
love that movie.
Relevant Podcast Network.